Hello, everyone, and welcome to Traders Mind Chat, where we talk to professional traders from around the world to get into their mindsets, what they believe, well, what makes them tick. Today, well, we are extraordinarily blessed to talk to one of my personal trading heroes, Mark Minervini, incredibly accomplished US investing champion, uh, consistently puts up triple-digit returns, and more, even more than that, the amount of help that he's given to traders from around the world, the champions that he's produced is absolutely incredible. And so grateful to have Mark on the show. Thank you for being here, Mark.
It's great to be here. That was a hell of an introduction. I have to say, though, this last year here has been pretty much a flat year for me, except I'm doing really good the past 3 weeks or so. Things really started taking off, got a lot of positions, I'm getting more aggressive. So just was in a cash for quite a long part of the year and didn't have, although the market was moving sideways for all that time, it just didn't seem to find many setups. So hadn't had a didn't knock it out of the park this last
Mhm.
year so far.
So that's
But
interesting. So let's maybe we could talk about that too, right? Because there's so many traders that are at that level where they're trying to break through, and things like that they know the rules, they know what they're supposed to be doing, but things aren't clicking well with the market. Well, like like how do you deal with that now, and how did you get to the point where you were able to deal well with an environment like this where it's just not conducive?
Well, I'm just patient and I wait because, of course, I've had a lot of experience. I've been doing this for almost 40 years now, so I've been through a lot of cycles, and I've had periods where I didn't trade for quite a while. Sometimes up to 2 years where I didn't do much trading, or at least didn't make much progress. But I very rarely ever had any kind of real drawdown. So I would just sit and wait and know that when my style comes back in vogue, I'm going to make it up, and make up that lost time. I think that's the hard part, is sticking with your strategy. But I always try to point out that if you change and you keep trying to change every time, your particular strategy is not in vogue, you're never going to be really good at any one thing, and you won't be there for when the pitch comes across the plate. So it's important to stick with it. And another thing too is, my strategy is based on timeless principles. I mean, if you go back to 1919 or 1929, 39, 49, 59, I don't care what decade, you go all the way back 100 years, the exact same thing is taking place that I trade off of. So it's timeless principles. I know there's, probably guys at MIT right now figuring out these various aberrations and high frequency trading and all these things that you can take advantage of from time to time. There's always something that crops up, but that's a whole horse of a different color.
Hmm. So about the strategy part, is there different ways that your strategy could be applied, or that other people could take their principles and apply it on, say, different time frames, different markets, in that regard?
Well, I mean, I trade stocks, so I
Right.
wouldn't say you want to go and start trying to use my techniques on futures trading, although you'll see some overlap with technical analysis. But, time frames, yeah, it doesn't really matter the time frames. It doesn't know time frames. You're going to have supply, demand. And then we're just talking about the technicals here. The technical side, the time frame is, I bought a stock today, actually, that was coming out of a base, and it had I don't really look at the intradays much, but there is a 5 minute that I keep minimized, and I happen to open it and see that the 5 minute, the daily, the weekly, all the time frames were lined up all at one time. So that's even a stronger, if it comes out of a base and you have all the time frames across the board lined up, that's even stronger. So, but it doesn't know any time frames. We've had people that have traded my technical style on intraday charts, and have some very accomplished day traders that utilize the techniques all day long, day trading.
Mm. So, from that time frame analysis, because that's real interesting that you mentioned that part of it too, with all the different time frames lining up, and that's something that I found that works for me too. Is there? a minimum number of time frames that you look to uh, make sure that they mesh?
Well, I'm always trading off the daily and the weekly chart. So that's
Okay.
pretty much it. I don't really look at much more. I look at a monthly to get some maybe really long-term perspective if I want to see, if it's how long it's been going relative to maybe the bull market. But I'm mainly just looking at daily and weekly charts. No, nothing really magical.
Mhm. All right, all right. So now with the strategy and the principles there, you have principles that are timeless, and the strategy that you could use would be adaptable to the market. Am I thinking about this right?
I don't know how you're thinking about it. I mean, like I said, I'm trading stocks. So, but I mean, I think you wanted to get into mindset here. I mean, we're getting into technical analysis. I don't know if you want to go this far off because we could go for a long time on technical analysis. I know we don't have much time here,
Yeah.
but I'll just circle you back for a second here because I know you were talking about, and we talked about this earlier today when I spoke with you about, when things go wrong and things are not working, sort of how do you stick with it and how do you have that that mindset or that discipline to be able to stay with your strategy. First thing you have to always do is you have to make sure that what you're doing, you're fundamentally sound, because there can only be one of two things that's wrong when things aren't working for you. Either your criteria is flawed or the market's just not right. Your style's out of vogue. You're in a bear market or a correction. Just the conditions aren't right. So as long as I go back when things aren't working, I go back and I check, basically, kick the tires and take a look and say, am I doing everything correctly? Am I buying the right stocks? Am I buying the stocks that are coming out of the bases? Am I buying them through the low risk pivot points? The uptrends, all the various variables that are, whatever your strategy is. So you check all that. If that's still intact and you're doing things right, well, then it can only be one thing. It's just that your style is not in vogue right now, and the market's maybe in a correction. So the only thing to do is to wait until things start working. So it's very simple. I mean, I keep it very straightforward, but I guess people don't have that vision. They can't make that commitment to the long-term plan and their techniques, and they start changing their philosophy. And you could change your observations, and you could even change your techniques. Like I'll use those who followed me and read my books know that I'll trade off of what I call the low cheat or the cheater or the handle or a pullback buy. So those are various. They might even be themes. You might have a market that has a certain theme. Like in 1995, it was all power plays, tons of power plays. That's probably why it was one of my biggest years ever, because those are powerful patterns. So you can be flexible with your techniques and your observations, but not with your fundamental philosophy. So I always stay with my fundamental philosophy, but work within that framework. But then I have some flexibility as far as the techniques that I use.
So, well, what are the key aspects of the fundamental philosophy? Well, maybe a better question is, well, if somebody is listening to this chat, what sort of fundamental aspects do they need to, like, well, what's the framework?
Well, again, it'd be better off for someone to read my books to find that, because we just don't have enough time for me to go through my strategy, and I've wrote two books on that.
Mm,
So it doesn't really matter the strategy. I'm talking whatever your strategy is. All right. So let's
mm,
just say you're a value investor. You're probably buying stocks that I wouldn't touch, and as a momentum investor, I'm buying stocks that value investors are usually selling to me.
mm,
So, but both of us can be successful, but the two of us have to stick with our strategies. The value guy's got to stay with in his wheelhouse, and I got to stay in my wheelhouse. But if I start, you know, my strategy starts not working, and I start trying to be a value guy, and he starts trying to be a growth guy, I can assure you that it takes a lifetime just to get master one of these. To be good at all of them, I've never seen anybody that can do it. I have not seen one single person in 38 years that could be switched to value, switch to growth, day trader, swing trader, long-term investor. I've never seen a person that can do that and can switch like that.
it kind of reminds me of when Michael Jordan tried to play baseball.
Yeah, great. One of the greatest athletes ever. There's only been a few athletes. You got Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders who are able to play both baseball and football. But I mean, how many people can do that? How many people can do multiple sports and be good at both of them? And I think trading is probably at least as hard as playing a sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So,
But getting
um,
into, I know when we talked a little bit, we had that brief, and we had some magical topics that we were talking about that were quite nice. If you remember, I said there was basically four um, main things to getting into a mindset or controlling your mindset and being able to operate at a high level, regardless of what you're applying it to, whether it's trading, whether it's your Olympic athlete. And that's what my newest book is about, is all the tactics that I use for trading, but I've used them for all kinds of things. One day it just dawned upon me. I said, wow, everything I do, I apply the exact same formula to every single thing I do. And I may not be the best in the world at every single thing I do, but I've gotten good at a lot of things in a short period of time.
mhm,
The first thing, and I think that, and this goes right hand in hand with that commitment to, they'd like to get those big returns. They'd like to be a great trader, but there's a difference between wanting something and really prioritizing it, really making it your master priority, something that is really at the top of your list of priorities. It might be at the top of your list of what you want, but wants are very weak and priorities are very strong. So if you remember earlier, I asked you, I said, what is the absolute most important thing to you in your life right now? And what did you say?
yeah, I said family.
You said your family, right? So there's some people that I ask that question to. I ask them to make a list, and they say family, God, health. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And then I say, what do you want? And then they say, well, I want to be a great trader, and I want to make millions of dollars, and I want to have a yacht and a car. And then the list, I put them together, and nothing matches in the top 5 or 10 even.
Mm,
So that just doesn't work. Now it doesn't mean that you can't have a family and you can't you're going to go and you're going to go after success at the expense of your health. Although there was a study done where they asked Olympic athletes, they said if you could take a pill and it would guarantee you a gold medal, but you would die in 5 years. More than half of them said yes. So that's the kind of, I mean, if you're in the Olympics, just think about that's the person that you're up against. Half the field is willing to die to become a gold medalist. So you have to think about how committed your competition is. You've got to be equally committed. Now, that, of course, that's absurd, but then I think if I remember correctly, you were like, well, I have a family then, and and then how am I going to be a great trader if that kind of says that it's not my priority, and that's where sub prioritizing comes in. All right,
yes.
and that's where I talk about time blocking. So now what you do is you make your priorities and you time block your time. So I'll just give you a perfect example. Like when I'm in my office, my family knows that regardless of what happens, it is a non-disturb period. When I'm at my shooting range and I'm training for an upcoming match, they know there nobody bothers me. No, that's my time. It's blocked out. My wife handles if there's the end of the world, she's not going to let me know until I'm done. So I time block those times, and during that period, it is the number one priority. So, and that's just it's sort of a time management, but I think of it as a priority management. Um, and like I said, you just got to realize that your competition. There's people out there like when I first started trading, I didn't start a family and I didn't get married till later in life when I was 40, 41 years old, because when I asked myself that question when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I said, what is my number one priority? And it was trading. And it was money, and it was success, and it was being the best, and it was doing what I love, and it was all these things that I knew that if I had a family and a wife and a child, that I knew that there was going to be a conflict. So I went after my goals first, and when I achieved them and I got financially independent, then I said, okay, now I could do whatever I want. I could spend all the time I want with my wife and my children, and now it's time to do that. That
How did you have the
obviously,
presence of mind for that? I think that a lot of people, well, when they get into this, they're not thinking that far ahead like you are.
well, I started extremely young too. I mean, I started, I started trading when I was about 19 years old. Of course, I didn't trade well until I was in my mid to late 20s, but I started young, so I lived at home with my mother at the time, so it wasn't as if someone starts in their 50s, that's fine too. It's never too late to be the person you always wanted to be. However, you have to approach it a different way, but you still have to approach it and with seriousness. I mean, you're not going to become great at this or great at anything with a half-assed effort. I mean, you really got to put the time in. So, but I asked myself that question, and there was no presence of mind. It was just passion. It was passion.
Mhm.
I could tell you right now, if I had not made a single penny from trading, I'd still be doing it today. I'd still be trying. It'd be 38 years later, and Mark Minervini would be a losing trader and still trying to be a winning trader, because that's the commitment. I said that I'm never quitting until I get this. So, but with that commitment is what gets you to not be there 38 years later and not being able to do it. That's sort of the catch, or that's sort of the magic about making that type of commitment. When you're willing to go 38 years and not be successful and keep doing it, that's when you get there a lot earlier. But if you don't have that commitment, you don't even put yourself in a position to be really great, because what happens is you're going to reach a point where it's that point where most people quit and you just can't take it, or you're going to change your strategy, you're going to give up, you're going to lose faith in yourself. And that's precisely when your commitment has to be, you know what, I'm not stopping, because there is no quit. I'm not looking at the result. I'm sticking with the process. I'm sticking with the process, and it doesn't matter what the result is. I'm going to refine the process. I'm going to get the process down, and the result will automatically happen. I just talked about this, and those of you who read my new book would relate to this. And I also talked, I think we opened up with it on the Mike Covell interview, where I forget his question, but some people look at a mountain, they look at the top, and they go, "Oof, man, that's high," and they don't even want. And it looks so. The task just looks so amazingly great and so daunting that they don't even try. And then there's other people, and I'm like, this is how I look at it. I say, okay, so let me see, if I go up and I go up maybe 500 feet. Okay, where do I have to go from there? And then I go up 300 feet, and I start breaking it down into a process of of taking that mountain down in chunks, in small chunks. And then it's all how you frame the challenge,
Mm.
and so I frame the challenge in smaller chunks and just work on that first chunk, and then I work on the second chunk, and before you know it, you're at the top, and you got there and you didn't even realize it, because you're too engrossed in the moment, in the process. So that would be the second. We talked about priorities and willingness to do what it takes. The second would be really just falling into process, getting off the result. Forget about the result. Forget about any timeline. Like, there's no time. There's no endpoint. There's no. I'm not going to, like, well, if this doesn't happen in 3 years, I give up. You've already given up. Once you say that, you've already thrown in the towel. So there's no time. So then the third thing would be openness. And what I mean by openness, um, and I talked about this before. I caught a little bit of flack from it on Twitter when I said, some people come to my workshop and they come with a big list of questions. So, and that person is a much harder person to teach, because they've already come with a predetermined idea, things they want to know, and usually they don't have the best questions. They don't know how to teach themselves. If they knew how to teach themselves, they wouldn't be there. So what I tell them is, I say, I can't fill your cup if it's already filled. You got to come with an empty cup. If you can come with an empty cup, then I can fill it. So you got to be you got to be teachable and open to learning. You got to come with an empty cup. A lot of people are not coachable. They think they are, but they're not. I was one of them. For many years, I was not coachable when I was younger, because we want to figure it out ourselves. We don't want to, maybe we want to take the credit, it's an ego thing. Do you want to impress the people that you look up to, your father, your mentor, whatever it is, but
Mhm,
bottom line is, we all need to learn. None of us are at the highest point that we're ever going to be, and we're always learning. I'm learning to this day. I learn from the people I even teach, and just by teaching them, I'm also teaching myself.
mhm. So uh, you weren't always you didn't always have an empty cup. At some point, you emptied it, and then you were able to progress. How did you empty it?
Well, I mean, because I'm someone who looks at things pretty objectively, and I looked at and I realized that I sucked, and I kept sucking, and then I realized that I wasn't getting better. Then I had to say my ideas aren't obviously that good. Otherwise, I'd be good. I mean, my partner used to say all the time when people used to talk about and give us all their dissertations on what they're doing. He say, if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? I mean, that's what it's about here. We're in the stock market. If you're really smart and you know so much and you're so great, you should be filthy rich. That's the bottom line. I mean, it's as simple as that, so I wasn't rich. I was extremely poor, and I wasn't getting rich, and so I realized, and also I'm Buddhist, so I've been Buddhist for a long time, like 30 years. I studied a lot of Eastern philosophy, and teachers are I think more revered, and I was also in martial arts, so you have a lot of respect, for a master, and so I think it was just over time of being able to realize that I got two ears and a mouth, and God told me to use the ears more than the mouth.
Yeah, I love it.
Now, the fourth thing here is empowerment. So we talked about priorities and willingness, openness, process. The fourth is empowerment, and what I mean by that, if you see things, if you see everything as an opportunity, it becomes empowering. When you have a bad result, you see it as a failure, it's disempowering. But if you see it as an opportunity to learn something, and you embrace it, you will learn something, because in every single thing that we do, we're producing a result, we're getting information, we're getting data, and it's valuable. Some of those failures, so-called failures, are the most valuable lessons that you'll ever have, and they define that moment. They define where you go next, whether you make it or you don't make it, and just by um, how you look at that, and how you decide to perceive those results. So I try to see everything as an opportunity. And like I said, this doesn't matter what you're applying it to. Some of you have, followed me or follow me on Twitter and so forth. You know that just recently I was at Foxwoods Casino. I'm in Connecticut right now, and I was asked to go and be a corner man and do some mindset uh, coaching, or performance coaching with a pro boxer. I was making his pro debut, and I told him, we were like in the back for 4 hours before he went in the ring, and I said to him, I said, don't hate that opponent of yours in there. Don't go out there with vengeance. Look at that guy as an opportunity. That's your opportunity. That's a blessing. You don't want to go out there with rage. I was a fighter when I was younger. I fought in karate and I boxed, and if I remember when I used to go out there, and with this rage, I would lose all my composure. And now I look at everything as an opportunity. Even if there's a struggle, if there's a problem, I mean, every door you go through, or every thing happens, everything leads to something else. Every door goes, you'll go into a room and there's more doors, and it's just amazing on how so many things happen where social media really, I think, has let me see how so many things can happen from, just maybe I do this and somebody hears me before you know it. I mean, who would ever expect that I'm in a boxing ring working with a boxer? That must have like taken people by surprise. But, I can assure you that, a year from now, I'll be doing stuff that I never even dreamed of, because everything leads to something else. And, there's just opportunities all the time. So, the main thing is to believe in choice, to know that you have choice, and that those choices shape your future just like everyone else. This is what really made me be able to rise and become a champion with trading, was because I looked at these guys, William O'Neill, of course, David Ryan, who works with me now, at one time he was sort of my mentor. He didn't know it. I was following him and I went to seminars, and I wanted to get those returns, win the US Investing Championship. But I said to myself, instead of getting so enamored with this and having that, these superstar traders, I said, wait a minute, these people are human beings with brains just like me that make choices. I have choices. I can learn. So, and better yet, they've already done it and I'm learning from them. So I'm starting at a level that I'm starting where they left off. I should actually be able to be better than them. When I first started, my first goal, my very first goal when I started trading was my long-term goal was to make $500 a week. Right? That's how long ago and how small I was thinking and how long ago it was. This was in 1984. Then I started hearing about guys making returns of 20, 30, 40% a year, and that became my goal. Then I heard about David Ryan, and he did triple digits for a few years, and I said that was my goal. Then I heard about Paul Tudor Jones, and he did triple digits for 5 years, and that became my goal. And then I said I want to be the greatest trader in the world and beat them all. So my point is that I realized, I said, I'm starting where they left off. And now everybody is starting where I left off. So you should be better than me. And that's empowering. That's very, very empowering.
And that's the human condition too, right?
We
Like,
are yes, we're encoded as humans to always get better. Just recently, the marathon runner just broke the 2 hour mark, just like when the 4 minute mile was broken by Roger Bannister. All of a sudden, right after that, a whole bunch of people did it. Well, we just had the 2 hour mark broken on the marathon, and I will be willing to bet that it will not be long, and you'll have more people break that, because now they see it can be done, and that physical barrier now isn't a physical barrier in everybody's mind anymore. And you know what, 10, 20 years, however long it takes, and they'll break the 1 hour 50-second mark. And 100 years from now, who knows, maybe they're doing it in a minute. But we will constantly get better. You have to get better, because again, you learn, your brains learn from previous information, and you've got all that available now more than ever, of course. I mean, look at this, with this kind of uh, um, platform, and with the internet and with social media. Holy cow! I mean, I tweeted the other day. I said, if someone doesn't believe about improving and that people are getting better, just go on YouTube right now. There's kids in diapers playing drums or playing Rush. I mean, when I played drums when I was younger, I had to pull the record back, the needle back about 5,000 times to figure out one little part. Now you've got the people who actually wrote the parts are on YouTube teaching you. So it's a great time. It's a great time to be just about anything because of the information world, and we're sharing, and the whole world is linked together.
yeah, just the other night, I was looking up who is the youngest marathoner, because I run marathons, and my wife was telling me that, oh, you and Lily's my daughter, she's 4.5. I could see the two of you doing a marathon one day. So I'm like, all right, well, when could that potentially happen? So I looked up who's the youngest marathon runner, and it was someone from India who's 40 years old, that has already ran like 28 marathons.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's we didn't realize how much talent was around the world until YouTube and social media, where now we can see, all this amazing talent that's all around. It was there, we just didn't see it. And now this is inspiring everybody to be even greater and better, and showing what, that's what it's all about. That's, co- you know, blazing a trail is about showing what's possible, so then other people can say, wow, that's possible, man, maybe I can do that, and then I can do better than that. So that's what it's all about. That's what leadership's all about. That's why I'm doing this. I'm doing this so to lead the next generation so they can be better than me.
I love that. And the take, like the point that you made earlier too about not having somebody else be on the pedestal, but to understand that this is just another human being. We're all made out of the same stuff. They could do it. We could do it.
Sure. I mean, you got to respect their accomplishments, and some people are like,
Absolutely.
some people are like, they seem like they're superhuman, but they're superhuman. Everything seems impossible until you learn how to do it, and you do it, and then all of a sudden, it's not so impossible, and what seemed impossible becomes easy, and it's impossible to somebody else, and then you move on to something else that seems impossible. But the impossible only exists until you do it, figure it out. So yeah, I mean, we're all just human beings, and it's in. And some people start off with genetic advantages, and they can jump real high and they can run real fast, and they never make it to the Olympics. And you have other people who start off, with way less talent, and they go all the way. They make a gold, they get a gold medal, or they accomplish. I'm a perfect example. I started with an 8th grade education in an incredibly poor environment with nothing but dysfunction in my family and all around me, and just every single possible strike against me. So you would never bet on me when I was a kid. And then I have friends that went to Ivy League schools, and they became drug addicts and couldn't recover, and ended up having a life that they did nothing with. So it's not where you start, it's how you finish.
I love that. I love that. I think that that's a great place to leave off with too, because I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure, sure.
Uh, the absolutely amazing, Mark. Thank you so much for your time and for everybody being here. Absolutely incredible.
Well, I hope it's been inspirational and maybe a little informational. If you had a little more time, I know we could get into this. I know people want tools and tactics and techniques, but I could tell you one last thing, and that is that those tools and tactics and techniques are only as good as your mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, if you don't have a belief in yourself, and you don't believe in choice, you don't believe that winning is a choice, and you're not prioritizing your dreams, you know what? You can have all the tools and tactics in the world, they ain't gonna mean shit. All right, this is what's important. This is what's holding you back. If you are being held back, this is what's holding you back. These things are the things you got to focus on, and then everything else you can get the knowledge. You can learn. You can get the knowledge. You can get the tools, but nobody can give you the belief in yourself. Those things got to come from within. No one could give you these fundamental principles that you have to live it. So but yeah, it's been great, man. Mike, I met you. I remember we were in New York, and you called me, and I happened to be nearby, and we went, and I think we had like a juice together, right? Then we go have like we had to a
Yeah, we
juice
did.
bar. Yeah,
Uh, Oh my God, that is such great memories too. And here I am, like talking to a hero, and just reach out, like, oh yeah, hey, well, let's go meet up for juice. Like, what?
I know,
Uh,
I know. Well, that's it. Well, once again, man, I'm just a regular guy. I'm just someone who worked really hard, and I'll be the first one to be a little bit cocky and say I'm great at what I do, but it certainly isn't because I have any natural gift. It's just I worked my ass off for the last 38 years. So, but yeah, and you were very gracious. You wanted to meet up, and what happened to be in the area was awesome. But see, and here we are, later friends, and that's how it works. So. It's awesome. I appreciate you having me on. I hope it's been helpful. Okay.
it absolutely has. Thank you so much. The book is amazing. Everybody needs to read this. Mindset Secrets for Winning. Uh, Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Take care. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.
Yep.